So there are four different factors or four different segments of making a game and delivering it to your players and also generating some money while doing the whole process. And in this video, I hope to cover all four of these aspects in a little bit of detail from a new developer's experience and perspective. So let's dive right into it. I will also be using this online drawing board to explain my ideas and to help you better visualize the information I want to convey. So this is a free online tool by tldraw.com, and I use it for a wide range of purposes, including making some mockups, UI UX flow, or just to draw some ideas out. The first three factors of making any game is design, development, and distribution. I will talk about the fourth factor in a little bit of a while. And all four of these factors really focus to answer the what, why, how, when, where questions. The fourth factor, which is the demand of a game, is not really talked about much. And in this video, I would also like to focus on covering the demand of a game or the demand of a genre or a theme in general, and why demand is probably the most important factor in making money from your game. So, game design is basically setting up the rules for a game, setting up the structure, the system, and defining the controls, the mechanics, the objectives for the game. It includes everything that has to do with the interaction between the player and the game system. So, for a board game like Monopoly Go, the rule set is that you roll a die and your pawn moves the number on the die on the board. And it is a turn based game. If you land on an opponent's property, you have to pay some rent to the opponent. And if they land on your property, they have to pay some rent to you. And a lot goes behind designing a game. So, for example, you can design the levels, which includes the layout of the level, the structure, placement of enemies, power ups, checkpoints, and so on. You can also design the economy for a game, which includes managing the currencies, the coins, the gold, the gems, defining where the player can spend them, how much they should spend, and what they can purchase or get the value out of in return. In studios, there are different types of game designers. So, for example, there can be a generalist game designer who does a little bit of everything. There is a level designer who focuses specifically on making levels for the game based on the game idea and the game's concept. And there is also economy designer who, as I mentioned, manages the economy for a game, defines. Let's take the example of Angry Birds. So it is a pretty simple game. You have some birds you can drag and shoot at the pigs, and using physics, they can be damaged or not damaged. The goal is to destroy all of the piggies in the level to win the game. And if you run out of the birds without destroying the pigs, you lose the game. And as you progress, you see different types of levels coming in, different level designs, different power ups, elements, all of which make the game just more interesting. So, progression is also important as the player wants to see new stuff happening in the game using the same core gameplay. The game also has a pretty appealing theme of birds versus pigs, and this is one of the reasons why the game got so popular amongst the players because it is so easy to understand and simple to play. So that is what designing games is in a nutshell. And if you want to be a great game designer, you should just play more games and try to deconstruct why they work, how they work, what keeps you playing for so long, and why do the players love it. You can just go online, read the reviews on Google Store, App Store, see on YouTube how the streamers are talking about it, try to understand it from an emotion perspective of why it is working so well. Let's talk about game development now, which is one of the most important aspects of the whole process. It it is all about how you build a game, all the tech stuff, programming a game using different game engines and really getting the idea into a playable prototype. There are just so many game engines at this point that you can choose Unity, you can choose Godot, Unreal, Play Canvas, or Buildbox, and it doesn't matter which game engine you choose, as long as it fits your game's vision and it can support the mechanics that you want to implement within the game. So I would suggest to just go with Unity or Godot and just mess around with it, start experimenting with your ideas and see how far you can go. And to get good at game development or programming a game, you need to have great knowledge of a game engine, good programming knowledge, which is basically understanding systems, structures, and logic of how things work, how object oriented programming works, and how to code in a clean and scalable way. Obviously, it depends from game to game. I myself don't have the best coding patterns, yet I'm able to build great games very easily. You can also use ChatGPT to assist you or to help boost your development process. I personally use it for a wide variety of use cases in game development. And there are a bunch of text to game tools also coming up, which allow you to create games just by talking to a chatbot. So that is something I'm personally excited for in the future. If you have zero experience in working with a game engine, it could take you around 5 to 6 months to get efficient at a new game engine like Unity or Godot. And it's not impossible, it just takes a little bit of patience and understanding to practice every day and mess around in the engine so you get better every day. You can also make games completely by yourself as a solo game developer, and you act as the designer of the game. You design your own ideas, you become the developer, you code your own ideas, and you become the artist. You make your own art for the game. And I have known plenty of solo game developers who make great games and also earn great money just by developing themselves. They are also really good and really efficient at programming the game so they can ship faster, get feedback faster, and improve upon the games much faster than many of the game development teams that are out there. I will talk more about these developers further in the video. So let's move to the next part, which is game art. How do you make a game look beautiful, and what is the role of an artist in making a game? The role of an artist in making a game is to make the game look aesthetically pleasing, tie the look and feel of the game to the game's vision. So if it is a horror game, the game should give that feel of a horror game, having little bit of realistic art, having dark, shady levels, scenarios, areas, so the player gets the vibe of being in a horror place. The role of a game artist is also to connect the players to the game's idea by presenting art in a simplified manner or a complex manner, depending on the concept again. And for this, they use a wide variety of tools and processes. There are a bunch of different tools you can use to create art for your game, like Blender, Photoshop, Illustrator, Maya, or flaticon.com, where you get free assets for your games. It all depends on the kind of art you want for your game. It could be 2D, 3D, it could be realistic, it could be minimal, vector based, cartoony. All of these softwares serve different use cases for different purposes. So you can research and just choose one that fits for your game's needs. Now, there are also a couple of AI tools that have been popping up to help you create 2D art for your games. And these AI tools don't just copy or are trained on the basis of other artists, but rather you can train your own art style in these tools to get what you need in a very efficient and quicker way. Now, in case you don't want to create your own art or pay for an artist to create art for you, there are a bunch of free websites or platforms available online where you can get art for some licenses or for some copyright licenses or maybe even copyright free art. So places like the Unity Asset Store, HIO, flaticon.com, or many others, you can just go ahead and Google them, can really help you get your art for your game. Again, this is a very smart way to make prototypes and to get your idea tested before a bunch of players to see if the gameplay is on point and if it makes sense to really invest into customizing the art for your game. Let's talk about distributing your games to a wide range of players and how game distribution works. But before that, let's get a general idea of how the game flows from the developer to the player. So, with the help of this small little graph that I'm creating now, we will understand how platforms work and how social media works to help players find better games. So when the game developer finishes a game, they upload it to a platform like Google Play Store, App Store, Nintendo Switch Store, Steam, some of the web platforms, HIO, or whatever platforms are there to distribute the games. And the players can then come to the store and download the game and play the game. For free mobile games, the most common way to drive players to the game is through the use of paid advertisement on social media, on other games, and there is really very, very less organic reach. So players tend to discover your games less organically, but more through paid ads. But the thing is, I have seen a couple of solo developers just use social media to promote installs and downloads for the game, and these are both free to play games and paid games. And one such example is of Magic Research. Magic Research was made around a year ago by a solo developer called Matthias, and this is Matthias's first game ever. So in the past 12 months, the game has sold well over 100,000 copies and at a price of $3 to $4. Being his first game, being the amount of effort he put into the game, I think Matthias earned around $400,000 in 12 months, which is a pretty good amount for any solo game developer out there. While social media is great to promote your indie games and your mobile games, can you really generate some profits or revenue from your game without using social media? I think you can. There are a lot of web platforms out there where you can upload your games, and the players who come to these platforms on a regular basis to check out new and fresh games will play your games. And in return, you have to just add some ad based revenue model into the game, maybe between the levels, or you can have some rewarded ads which provide the player a different pathway to progress in the game. And if you talk about what all web platforms are out there to upload your games, there's just so many of them like Game Distribution, Pokey, Crazy Games, Facebook Instant Games, Game Picks, Addicting Games, Cool Math Games, and so many more. You just have to discover them and talk to their developer team to understand if they can upload your games, if your game is suitable for their websites or not. Facebook Instant Games has one of the largest traffic out there, but it is also quite difficult to compete against other developers on the platform because there's just so many games coming there every other week, and you really have to stand out to make something valuable. There are obviously certain criterias for every platform, but if you talk about the general idea of how web games should be, they need to have a very high quality of gameplay. They should have bug-free gameplay. They should have really high polished art, sounds, VFX, and the gameplay mechanic, the gameplay itself should be something different than what has already been done so many other times. If you look at mobile games, you'll see just so many replicas and clones still making a lot of money. But for the web, you have to add some twist to the gameplays to make make the audience, make the players really come back and play your game. One thing you should also keep in mind is to design for multi-platform. So most of the web players actually play it on desktop and PC compared to mobile. And if your game's control adapt easily to the keyboard and mouse controls, then there is a chance that your game is accessible to a wider audience. And a wider audience could definitely mean a more revenue for your game. Another factor that you should consider while building games for the web is to really work closely with these platforms, to work in close collaboration so you can share your games, share your upcoming ideas, and get some feedback from them because they play so many games every day, they see so many games, they have the data of so many games, and they can really give you feedback that can help improve your game to earn better revenue, to add more features, to add better monetization options, and can also promote your games at times if they think it is worth it. So it is really important to work closely with the content team of these platforms. So that wraps up the distribution part of making games, of how you can approach these web platforms and upload your games to the platforms, and how you can leverage social media to drive more players to your games. So, one big difference between games and tech products is that tech aims to solve problems, while games tend to create problems within the game that the player has to solve. So if you have a tech product that actually solves a problem, it is very easy to create demand for it because the problem already exists with majority of the people out there, and you just have to deliver it to them because the demand exists because the problem exists. But for games, it is not as straightforward because games are not solving problems. So there are two ways to create demand for your game. The first one is you have to look for something that is already working out there. So it could be some trending videos on social media. It could be some movies, some web series, web shows that are trending, and based on that, you can create a game. So this is a more theme-based approach, which is what I did with the fruit game in one of my previous videos, as I showed. And it works, but if you can add some more innovation and a twist to it, people already like the theme, they will love the gameplay. The second aspect, I think, is the most important one in creating demand for your game is to craft some engaging mechanics, something that has not been done before or that has been done before, but with a twist. And just shamelessly share the gameplay on social media like Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, because that is where most of the players stay online. And your gameplay has to be attractive enough to make them demand your game, make them ask you when is it going to be released, or how can they play the game, where can they get it, what all features are in the game. So this is more about you teasing the game to the players and players coming back to you to ask you questions about the game rather than you forcing them to buy the game by paid ads or by hard selling your game over social media. So to wrap it up, I think to create a good game that earns a lot of money, you have to be good at designing a game, developing a game, and distributing a game. But also most importantly to create demand for your game, and the ultimate factor is to create that demand. You can be average at game development because there are so many AI tools out there which can help you now. You can be average at designing a game. You don't have to design a very complex game like GTA. You can do something very basic, very simple, maybe a physics-based games with 100 levels, and you can be average at distributing the game. But if your gameplay is good and fun enough, if all of those factors mix in and create the right blend, then it is very, very easy to create a fun, good demand for your game. So before wrapping up the video, I would just show you another case study of Philip, who is a solo indie game developer from Germany. Philip creates these small little weird games which have quirky, fun mechanics that have not really been done before, and the art is very easy to produce. The gameplay code is very simple to make. Most of his games are physics based, but Philip was able to create a demand for his games via social media. His most famous game, The Bacon, got very popular over TikTok, over YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter as well. A lot of streamers also played the game. So, this in turn created a lot of demand for the game. And if you did manage to stay till the very end of the video, I would like to say thank you, as this is only my second video, and I hope you were able to learn something new. If you did, please do subscribe and share the video with others. And I really want early game devs, new game devs who want to make games to really understand how everything works, how they can leverage modern tools and everything to boost their game development processes.